I'm excited to actually see Matt Nagy's offense. And I know that that sounds weird because he's been here for literally 3 or 4 years now, fourth year going in this season. But that's the truth. I mean, we have not seen Matt Nagy run his offense to the, everything he wants to do because it just has not been a possibility because Trubisky couldn't run it. And then Nick Foles couldn't run it. And before that, I mean, you had 2018 where where they were doing well, but that was also his first year, so nobody had seen his offense. And even though it was limited because Trubisky was there and Trubisky was the quarterback, and the dude just does not know how to read a defense or make reads on passing plays. Now you actually get to see him potentially run it with a guy in Andy Dalton who knows the system, at least somewhat well or played a similar system. And then is also capable of running offenses. Like nobody has ever said that Andy Dalton's dumb or that he's not going to be able to pick up the new offense. So I think he can actually open up the entire playbook with him as well as with Justin Fields because Justin Fields is, his guy. He actually scouted him. This is who he wanted. He got his guy. And Justin, it seems, Justin had the, kind of black quarterback stereotype that you couldn't get through reads, which was just complete crap. And it's just stupid. And he can read defenses, and he did it at a high level and was very accurate and very good in college. So I expect that the playbook is wide open, and it's going to be exciting to actually see his offense run fully with a lot of weapons, and Damian Williams, who knows the offense from Kansas City, Tariq Cohen, who's back, David Montgomery, who's now, if his speed is actually improved, David Montgomery, that's literally the only problem that he had was his home run speed. Then getting wide receivers, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney in his second year. Let's see if he makes a jump. Maybe Anthony Miller will finally come back to being, rookie Anthony Miller. All those things, Cole Kmet making a jump in his career, plus this offense opening up. It's going to be a very exciting year for the Bears, potentially, if Justin Fields works out. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it before, and it's not anything new, but like receivers were getting open. Trubisky, for the most part, couldn't hit them. So I want to believe, and this is like totally just sipping the Kool-Aid, but like I want to believe that with a quarterback that can execute it, that those receivers are going to be hit. They're going to be first downs are going to be converted, points scored, all that stuff. I mean, I've seen too much tape of just seeing people basically wide open and just not get hit or down the field and just overthrown. So I mean, clearly, if you're creating those openings and everything, the system does have merit and it does work. But again, you're going to get crucified if it doesn't actually translate to production itself, and that's what people at the end of the day are going to look at. Unless you actually follow the team and are analyzing things, you're just going to look at the box score. Box score wasn't great, never has been the past 3 years.
Oh God,
So
it's been terrible.
yeah, so I do want to sip the Kool-Aid and hope that because this system has seemed to have worked, it just needs somebody else to execute it, that we're still going to be in good shape. And the number one thing about Matt Nagy is that he could have lost and should have lost, like absolutely should have lost the locker room a couple of times in the past year. He never did. So there's a lot of merit to go off of that. That's more of the intangibles as opposed to the actual head coaching itself and, the route concepts, everything else, executing the offense. But it can't be overlooked. It is a really big thing, and you got to give him credit for that. So I just really want him to be able to put that together and have both sides of the coin here. And I hope he does. I don't know. You want to like him for sure. So we will
Listen,
see this year.
I am fully drinking the Kool-Aid here, and I'm going to say that I don't think that we have seen the best of Matt Nagy, and the reason why is because I think the last 3 years he's dealt with a quarterback who, when he gets into the second quarter and he looks at Trubisky and goes, "What are you seeing?" And Trubisky goes, "A receiver not open," and Matt Nagy goes, "Thanks. Let me go talk to Bill Lazor about whatever you just said." Like that's hopefully now we're actually going to see somebody run his offense well. And I wish Trubisky the best success. I mean, he's
He
a
got
great guy
married.
the whole time he was here. Yeah, he was congratulations to him getting married. He's a good guy and everything. Wish him the best success. The man could not read a defense. The man could not stop making mistakes that a rookie would make in his fourth year. So to finally have a quarterback that will be able to execute well. And again, we're banking on a rookie quarterback, so we have no idea. He literally has not taken a snap in the NFL. We don't know. But what I'm saying is, if he works out well, I think you're going to see Matt Nagy reach his full potential as a head coach, because you're going to see either A, his offense is going to work because he has a quarterback that's competent and can run it, or B, his offense doesn't work. But if his offense works, you're going to see, okay, like you said, he's kept the locker room together these last 4 years. Players respect him. He, does everything else well. That's what everybody's always said about him, is that literally everything else about him as a head coach has been great. I mean, like, getting people motivated. All of the Bears have always been in games. It doesn't matter if we're watching Trubisky throw the third interception of the game to a receiver or to a cornerback that was standing there staring at him going, "Hey, I'm going to intercept this ball." And then he threw it to him. That's, as we're watching those games, somehow the Bears are still in games and still playing hard and still driving. Obviously you saw the defense start to go like, all right, listen, we're not going to literally carry you guys on our backs for 3 years straight. But other than that, there's a lot of other things you like. The way that he handles the game, the way that he's handled, even timeouts and things like that, little things like that. I think he's done that a lot better than people give him credit for. And we've seen it game to game. And that's why you see opportunities in game winning field goals and, drives where they were set up where, we could have won the game if if the drive was successful, or if we were able to hold off the team, things like that. But to have a competent quarterback run that full offense that he wants to run, if it's successful, means that Matt Nagy is an actual great, a good coach in the NFL, because he does everything well. It's just we haven't seen his offense actually be run to its full potential because we haven't had a quarterback that can do that.
Yeah.
Again, this is all banking on if Justin Fields can do that, and if Matt Nagy can actually, his offense is actually worth something. But, we're also talking about how the guy took over as offensive coordinator for 1 year and Alex Smith had his career year. So, I mean, there's a lot to say there.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was definitely times during the year where we were just like, what are you doing with these? Again, there's always the meme about okay, you need 5 yards or whatever. Sounds like a screen off to the right for 2 yards. That did happen. Again, an abusive relationship, I'm just going to completely wipe my memory and pretend it's not going to happen again, because
but the thing
there's a lot of parts of that.
But the thing is things like that and situations like that might also play a factor in that he doesn't trust his quarterback to make the throws or run the plays that he wants to run in that situation, because he goes, listen, I have Trubisky to work with. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, no, and that's exactly where I'm going with it too, is that there was a lot playing into those decisions. That was definitely one of them. And yeah, when we're thinking no, for sure, you can hit it, definitely ride with Trubisky at that point, and we're still in faith. He's been up and close with them for 3 years at that point, and those are the decisions he's making. So in context, things look a little bit more, it's a little bit more clear about why he made some of those odd decisions at the time. And yeah, it's probably that. It probably literally is just the fact that he didn't trust him, and, a bunch of other things. Offensive line injuries, there's a lot of things going into it, but boy, it was frustrating to watch.
And here's another thing that I just thought about too is how many times did you watch a Bears game and you had to hear that the scripted plays at the beginning of the game ran well and the rest of the game was bad? And you know why? It's because the scripted plays were him actually running his offense, where Trubisky could run it, because Trubisky literally, it was like, hey, you're running this play next. And Trubisky was like, okay, coach.
Didn't have to think about it, just did it.
Yeah. He didn't have to think about it. He didn't have to process. He didn't have to actually make decisions. And that's why those scripted plays work so well. And that's why if you watch the beginning of every Bears game, it's always impressive. That's Matt Nagy's offense. And that's what I'm talking about, is that's what I'm excited for, because that to me feels like what Matt Nagy's offense could be the entire game if he had a quarterback that he was confident in enough to run that offense the entire game.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I did kind of forget about that as well. And I never really put too many comparisons to a Jared Goff, because that's the first one that comes to my mind of just okay, as long as coach is saying it, I could do it, and it executes well. But beyond that, and the mic's turned off in the QB's helmet and everything, then I start having to think for myself, and it doesn't go so great. But it's kind
Yep.
of funny because, yeah, you saw the scripted plays and everything, and Trubisky basically being a vessel for the offense of not having to use his brain, but like athletically still be a really good quarterback. That's kind of that's a good point. I forgot about that. It's funny to
And
think
there's
about it
just
that way.
Yeah, and then there's just so many other things, like, the fact that Allen Robinson has a ridiculous catch percentage when he's double teamed. Like, who's throwing him those double team passes the entire time? Oh yeah, it's Trubisky going, I'm just gonna throw it up to Allen. Like, that's like
Yeah,
like the offense could be run so much better if a quarterback was competent enough to read, the defense and know what's happening and not get fooled over and over again. You know,
right.
that throw against the Packers, I've referenced this. We talked about this when you were here. That throw where Adrian Amos was like, yeah, I knew the formation had happened 3 times before. They ran this play 3 times before. I knew he was going to Allen Robinson. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, if that play was called, are not making the exact same throw on the third play of the game in an important moment. They're not making that throw. They're changing it up. They're throwing it to a different receiver because they understand that, hey, the defense knows that I have to go into this guy multiple times. Let me go to a guy that they're not going to expect. And then that's when the play happens. And that's why you see those two guys be a lot more successful than everybody else in the NFL, and that's what we haven't seen out of any quarterback here in literally since even Color.
Yeah, yeah. No, and
So
then on top of that, we also want to see just the last thing to touch on coaching. Obviously, lots of things riding on Sean Desai. Um,
yep.
Heard nothing but good things, but don't. I mean, it's one of those things you're not really going to notice until we see it during the season. So, like you
Well, and
said,
the good
there's a lot.
yeah, well, and the good news too with Sean Desai is that he is a guy who learned a lot under Vic
Fangio.
Fangio,
Yep.
which Vic Fangio's style of defense was, in my opinion, much more suitable for this defense that we had than Chuck Pagano's last year. And
Yeah.
we can say things about Chuck Pagano being on the out and everything like that. Chuck Pagano's a good coach. I just don't think his defense was. I don't think his defense was suitable for the personnel that we had. So I think Sean Desai will be better in that department, and I think the defense will be better in that department. And from what I've heard, he's a very detail oriented guy. He pays attention to everything. He knows everything that's happening, and he knows the defense in and out, which is great because having a guy that's going to take command like that with a bunch of veterans is important. And the other thing too is I've heard too before when he did get the job, people were like, "Yeah, Sean Desai is going to get a job in the future, so it's good that the Bears gave him the opportunity instead of him leaving," which is, sometimes that happens to teams. So I hope that's the case, and I do feel optimistic about that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you could touch on this, but from my very brief readings and basically on defensive formations and everything that Vic Fangio did differently than Chuck Pagano was Chuck Pagano used little, maybe if any, like any sort of stunts, anything that was hidden, anything that was like obscuring what was actually happening in
Yeah,
the play. And I think even quarterbacks throughout the season, last season, the season before, touched on the fact that they had seen what was going to happen, and it was very basically it came all down to like predictability. Vic Fangio had a lot of things that were hidden, things that were actually going to surprise offenses and change them up and force them to worry. Whereas you walk out on the field and I think at this, I literally think Aaron Rodgers brought this up, was that they saw the play, they saw exactly what was going to happen, and it did happen over and over and over again. There was nothing changed up or adapted to. It was just, oh, we've seen this play before. Now we know exactly how to counter it. And from what I understand from Fangio, is that was one of his biggest things. That's one of like basically the lifeblood of his defense that hopefully Desai is going to be taking off of and using and everything. But having those things to think about, changing things up, not just being able to walk out in the field and be like, okay, this is the play and adapt to it.
yeah. Looking at Vic Fangio, Flores down in Miami, defensive coordinator. I can't. His name's escaping me, but for the Bucks, what they do well is they hide coverages and they
Todd Bowles.
hide yeah, Bulls. They hide basic schemes in what looks like intricate covers or intricate stunts, or but they boil down what it boils down to. I mean, there's 10 different ways you can hide a cover two, but it's still a cover two. But the problem is you don't want the offense, you don't want Tom Brady to identify that it's a cover two defense, because then he knows how to beat it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to hide it with all these different, coverages and stunts and fakes, and you bring a safety up and it looks like a different coverage, or it looks like a cover one, but it's really a cover two because he's going to drop back into that low safety position. So there's that's just one example of how coverages will change and be disguised throughout a game that allow you to still run basic coverages, but run them in a way where the offense isn't going to pick up on them instantly. And the offense, you're basically forcing the quarterback to rely in real time, or react in real time to what he's seeing on the field rather than what he's seeing pre-snap, which is a very different thing. Because pre-snap, a lot of quarterbacks can set a play up to be perfect, but then the coverage clicks into place and the disguise comes off, and then the quarterback has to react to what they're seeing live and make the right throw and right decision. And that's when quarterbacks that aren't the Aaron Rodgers, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Tom Brady's, those are when those quarterbacks will show their colors and won't be able to react or to change their play. So that's Chuck Pagano's defense, though, was a lot more basic, with bringing more basic blitzes in. So he blitzed more than Vic Fangio did. If I remember, did he blitz more, or was he less of a blitzer? I think he was less of a blitzer, actually. I think I'm getting mixed up with he was less of a blitzer. But either way, he ran a lot more basic coverages that really didn't try to disguise or hide anything. It was like here's our personnel that we're bringing out. Yeah, we're running cover two, try to stop it, kind of thing. And the problem is that when your defense is tired and you already don't have your nose tackle, and Eddie Jackson's not playing up to what he was before, and part of that is because Eddie Jackson, especially with Clinton Dix there, was trying to play more strong safety than free safety. And then you saw it with Tayshaun Gibson, where he was able to kind of slide back into his free safety role, but it still wasn't there. And partly, again, that's because of the way Vic Fangio allowed him to play, was a lot more aggressive and a lot more taking chances. And that's where Eddie Jackson excels. So that's what you're going to see out of this new defense with Sean Desai is disguising a lot more coverages. You're going to have blitzes that aren't going to be so straightforward, where the quarterback can identify the blitzer immediately. And that's going to allow guys like Eddie Jackson to take advantage of a play where a quarterback is surprised by the coverage when the play actually starts, and then makes an errant throw or decision. And then Eddie Jackson's able to jump a route or, make something happen. That's the type of thing that you're going to see. Or a quarterback panics and a Khalil Mack's able to get to him, or Akeem Hicks is able to get to him, or hopefully Robert Quinn's able to get to him, for God's sake.
On one leg.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack there with that. But either way, the point is that's what you're hoping to see out of Desai. You're hoping to see him establish more of a complex appearance of a defense that has a very strong base to it, where players understand where their roles are, but also how to disguise those roles, so that way quarterbacks don't have such an easy pre-snap read on what's about to play out in front of them.
Yeah. No, that was good. Thank you. That was a good coverage of the differences.